And we're live. We are 1 minute late today because Kate was telling me something fascinating that she's going to turn into the monologue. She doesn't know this. It is Sunday, January 3rd, 2021, 5:01 p.m. And Kate has a new solution to mispronouncing people's names. Go for it, Kate.
Yeah.
Monologue.
So I am terrible at pronouncing people's names correctly. My brain betrays me. Like every time someone has corrected me, I'm kind of panicking or beating myself up in my head for saying it wrong. And so I don't form a new memory about how to say it right. And it's like a terrible. Anyways, I have now taught like I think 6 or 7 classes, and every time I do, I try like a different way to take index cards and have them phonetically spell their names and to do like all of these various things. I always end up getting things wrong, both basic and kind of complicated names. Anyways, because of online teaching, I made a Google form for all of my students to fill out that just kind of said like, where'd you go to undergrad? What'd you major in? What do you want to do with your law degree? And then it was just like, what would you like to be called? And then please just go to this link, and I'll drop the link in the chat in a second, but please just go to this link, and it's called, I think it is called, SpeakPipe. And it's just a voice recorder, and it makes it's all browser based, no upload or download. You say your name, and then you're done, and you hit the done recording button, and it generates a link for you. And then they just came right back to like the Google form browser and pasted the link of them saying their name. So now I have all of my Google form like answered, and all of every person, and it says their name and their preferred name, and then there is a link to them saying their name, and I can just like go down the list and like listen to it and listen to it and listen to it and get in my head correctly the first time and not have to like do this. And I am so excited. I'm just like
Catherine Clonique.
I know, that's what my mom said. She's like, everyone mispronounces your name. I was like, I don't care though.
We're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to mispronounce people's names now with official. So here's what I think you should all do with this. Go to this program and mispronounce your own name. And that way, you will retain the right to be annoyed at people for mispronouncing your name, and you can hoard this this particular joy. So we are here for, of course, Taylor Swift was confirmed as my mystery guest today. She was bitterly disappointed at me for canceling today because we had a request for another audience interview day, Audience Gone Wild. And so just a reminder for those who do not remember or have not seen the previous shows of this, the way this game works, Kate will choose the first person. We will interview that person, and then that person will name his or her successor on the screen. And we will just spend the show interviewing people other than Taylor Swift. So Kate, who are we starting with?
The Reverend Doctor, the good Reverend Doctor, Hillary Livingston. I presume correctly. Okay, that's a good question to start with. Livingstone or Livingston?
Well, it looks like it should be pronounced Livingston.
But doesn't sometimes that get pronounced Livingstone? We'll find out.
We have an authority on the pronunciation of Reverend Dr. Hillary Livingston's name. So we're going to start with that. Am I correct that it is Livingston, not Livingstone?
You are correct, Ben.
There we go.
And as memory serves, you are a Presbyterian minister in Delaware.
That is correct.
I got that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I like your festive sweater.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to wear something fun.
Let's have the guest more visible.
Yeah. Amazing background.
So,
Wow.
how are you from Delaware originally? How does one end up being a Presbyterian minister in Delaware?
Wow, that's quite a story. I actually grew up in Western Pennsylvania in the Pittsburgh area. And how did I end up in Delaware? After seminary, I applied for a position in the southern part of the state, served there for a few years, went back to Pittsburgh, and then when I was transitioning, applied. There was a church open in northern Delaware, and I applied for it, and they called me there. And I've been here since 2016.
And how did you discover In Lieu of Fun? How did you come to be a member of this particular corner of the interwebs?
I follow a bunch of nerdy political and religious authors online on Twitter. So I think I stumbled on it. I think when you had Tim Miller on, one of his appearances, that's how I found it. And I thought it was a quirky, cool show.
So how big is your flock generally, and how has everyone been faring with virtual church?
So we're a small congregation. We're about like 45 members when we're in person. We tend to be an older congregation. We're faring okay, all things considering. We were not particularly tech savvy, or we did not have a big online presence. And then last March, we kind of got thrust into kind of COVID virtual church. So everybody's been really good about learning how to get on Facebook, get on YouTube. We've tried to keep our services, we pre-record them because we're not really set up for live streaming at this point. Although that is one of my goals for 2021 is to get us hopefully into live streaming. So we have like some interactive elements. We do like a Zoom fellowship time before our pre-recorded service. And then after our pre-recorded service, I do like a Facebook Live to interact with people a little bit. So, I mean, it's been hard because we like to hang out together and we're very social oriented, and church is really kind of like a second family for a lot of our folks. Nice. So it's been really hard not to be together in person, but everybody's really stepped up and learned the technology, including me. I graduated from seminary with my MDiv back in 2001. So I did way before social media, way before, any of this technology stuff. They don't teach you how to do ministry during a pandemic in seminary. So had to figure that out.
I think they can be forgiven for that.
I think so.
I grew up in the Presbyterian church, actually. And I used to be a youth elder way back in the day. And I'm very lapsed, but I also didn't know there's a big split in the Presbyterian church between like the kind of whatever it was that I was raised in, and kind of a very it was a very liberal-ish, very kind of I would say typical kind of what I would say typical Protestant, New England, upstate New York type thing. And then other Presbyterian churches that were very, very evangelical seeming, and much more socially conservative. And so I never actually learned that there was where that difference kind of broke down, or why that was. But I see you nodding, so I'm glad it wasn't just me and my particular understanding.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of splits. There's been a lot of divisions in Presbyterianism in general in America. I'm the mainline Presbyterian Church USA, which is a typical mainline, tends to be more middle of the road to progressive.
That was what mine was.
Yeah, and then a lot of them have branched off in different other denominations over various issues. There was a split like 30 or 40 years ago over the inclusion of women in ministry. There's been splits over marriage equality and things like that. There's been, and even before that, I mean, our denomination originally split during the Civil War, as many denominations did, over the issue of slavery. So, Presbyterians, at least in America, have had a lot of. There's a lot of different kinds of us, and there's been a lot of splitting and splintering.
Yeah, like once you nail something to a door, like you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we definitely come from that heritage.
Yes.
So, Hillary, whom should we hear from next? There are 14 or 15 people in the queue, and you can choose any of them to hear from.
How about Robin W?
How about Robin W? Let's find Robin.
Great, thank you.
It was fun
thank you.
Good to talk to you.
For coming.
Yeah.
So we have now invited Robin on screen, and Nina's shown up.
Nina's being clingy today. Hi, Robin.
Hey guys, how are ya? Oh, puppy.
Bye, Hillary. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you.
Bye.
So, Robin, where are you joining us from?
I am joining you from Ardress, Utah. It's about 40 miles west of Salt Lake City.
Wow.
And 40 miles west of Salt Lake. I'm looking it up because I did
and how many
Utah
people
trip.
are in Ardress, Utah?
I don't know. Kate's looking it up, so hopefully she can tell us.
So are you from there, or are you?
No. How do you spell it?
EBRD. It's in Tooele County.
Wow, I completely misspelled that.
I
found it.
I'm originally from Los Angeles, so.
And how did you end up in Ardress?
How did I end up in Ardress? Well, when I was like about 20, I met a guy and I came up to visit while I was living in St. George, Utah. So I met him in St. George and I came up to visit him in Ardress and, kind of stuck around. I actually moved a couple of different places and then ended up back here.
And what do you do there?
What do I do here? Well, now not much of anything. I actually ended up marrying that guy that I came to visit. And I also, significantly, I just want to say, I was with you guys during the first show. And
really?
Speaking of names, going back to the intro.
Yeah.
Ken, geez, I can't even pronounce Ben. I said Ken. Wow. My brain was like screwed. So Ben called me out and he said, Robin Where, but it's Robin War, but he kind of corrected it. So that was kind of funny. And I only really remembered that because I was watching Lisa Page on the YouTube and which was excellent show, and it kicked me to the first episode. I don't know if you guys programmed that in, but it was a trip.
Hell no, don't worry.
No. we just slap it up there and let the algorithms do the rest.
I know.
And Kate's hair was so short, which was so cute, but I think your hair is so cute now, so
thanks.
You're just cute. So anyway, the whole point of all that BS was that the fact that I actually, prior to 2014, I wanted to bury my head in the sand when it came to politics. So I ended up going to Salt Lake Community College through the advice of my therapist, and which changed my life. And had it not been for that move and taking a politics class, because I hated politics, I just wanted to bury my head in the sand, I don't think I would have found you guys. So I ended up like in 2015, because it was right before, it was like during Trump's running for president. I ended up with an amazing teacher. So I want to shout out to all the teachers, including Kate and Anne and Alice and all the other teachers out there. Shout out, because if you have a good teacher, your life is changed, and it doesn't matter what the subject is. It's pretty life-changing. So I fancy myself a teacher connoisseur.
Excellent.
So, that having been said, what I do during the day is I do attend some classes. I did get my associate's degree, which whatever. Now I'm just there to learn because my husband, he's got dementia, so I have to be here at home and available. And anyway, so this has just been a blessing, and I really appreciate you guys. There's so many smart people. I learned so much. Some of it, sometimes occasionally is over my head.
That's okay, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but like Kate, I love the fact that Kate has such diverse interests. The psychology, the neuroscience, the law. I mean, because that's when I went to school. That's what I found out. I want to do it all. But
so I have a question.
Good to be a generalist.
How did you discover In Lieu of Fun in time for the first episode? Okay. That makes you like a really unusual member of the audience.
That is true.
And I'm so glad you actually asked that because I've always, not always, I have been a member of Twitter for a long time. I don't generally go on, but I do watch the scroll screen. So I followed Ben on Twitter, and for some reason that day you had sent something out saying you're doing this, and it's not like I go onto Twitter, but it just
showed up.
It just showed up, and then I showed up, and it was just
That's a super cool story.
That is a really cool story. That's
thank
awesome.
you for showing up, and thank you for sticking with it all this time.
Yeah, and you always have great questions, Robin. Thanks for asking them.
So who should we hear from next? It's your choice.
My choice. Okay, I'm bringing it up. I want somebody who has not really been on before.
I loved my trip to Utah, just by the way.
Oh,
like John and I we did all of the Southwest parks in the spring of 2018. It was amazing. It was just unreal.
So I have not even done that myself. Who can you guys help me with who has not been on? I'm looking.
So
sure.
Depending on who Evan is, I don't think Evan has been on. Stephen Boapane, working from the bottom, has definitely been on, although not often.
Okay,
Alice
let's go
Lee.
with Evan. Let's go with Evan.
All right.
Great.
We're going to find out if Evan is. Oh. So some Evans have been on and some have not.
He said not ready to be raptured.
Okay.
Somebody else then.
I think everybody else here has been on.
Josh Jacobson?
I'm not sure about Tim. Josh Jacobson has definitely been on. I even know what he looks like. Okay. I'm not sure about Timothy Scott, though.
Okay. Oh, cool. Well, then I have two requests. Maybe Timothy Scott, and not that we'll get to this, but maybe I'll put a bug in everybody's head. I would love to see JB play his Martin.
Oh. Okay.
Good.
We'll
see if he's up for that.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Timothy Scott, have you ever been on before?
No, I don't think I have.
All right. So Robin got her wish, which is somebody who's not been on before. Well, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So other than your name, Timothy Scott, we know nothing about you. Where are you joining us from, and who are you?
I'm outside of Philadelphia. I was born and raised in the city, but I moved up here to Warwick, which is maybe about half hour outside of the
Rhode
Northeast.
Island?
No, Warwick, Pennsylvania. It's part of Bucks County. Yeah, It's part of Bucks County. It's like, half hour outside the city.
And how long have you been watching In Lieu of Fun?
I may have been watching since the very beginning because, Ben, I've been following you for the longest time.
So you've been like a lurker, like a serious lurker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't have a big legal education, and I'm a video guy. I've done a little bit of video here and there.
So we must drive you nuts.
Because you actually know how to do this stuff.
Yeah, I know.
You know what, Ben? There's so much stuff with video that they've changed so much that there's stuff that I don't even realize how to do. Like I don't think I could handle the audio issues that you're having. I'm actually the media director at my church, and we're always having problems with the streaming and the Wi-Fi. So
yeah, it's like when I did MSNBC, we would. They would have whole teams of this stuff, and they'd still have glitches sometimes. Not like we do, but that's because they're pros. Anyway, so you do video stuff for a living, or?
I own my own production company, but I haven't done much with that in maybe 10 years now. But I was in a car accident when I was 19. And I had a traumatic brain injury, so I actually I work like maybe 3 or 4 hours a day at it's like a school for people with disabilities and stuff, like residents and school. I don't live there, but I work there for a couple hours a day. I deliver mail, inter-office mail from places, So.
Great.
Very
That's
cool.
Nice. Very cool. Well, if we ever stop having audio issues and start having video issues, I hope you're okay.
We'll know who to call. So who do you want to hear from next?
Let me take a look. You know what? Well, you said you were going to talk about Tomas's question, so I'm not going to call him.
Yeah, I will address the question of the tape, the president's latest Georgia tape.
Oh yeah.
As before we break, but I don't want it to take over the show.
Okay, how about Christopher then?
Christopher from London.
Hi, Christopher.
We can do that.
Tim,
hang on.
So nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you guys.
Where is Christopher?
Thanks for being game.
Thanks for having me. God bless you guys.
You too. I got Christopher.
I still think one of the things that I didn't quite realize how funny it is over the internet is, hi, Christopher.
Hi.
All right. I'm going to try to identify everything I know about Christopher Ardress.
Ooh, you know a fair amount.
All right. He is London-based.
Yes.
He is. He teaches at LSE, or is somehow associated with LSE.
London University. Well, we can get into that if you want.
Okay.
Right.
He has a background at some combination of the State Department and some IC component, I think.
Yes, sure.
Which intelligence community component were you with, or are you allowed to say?
I've worked with CIA and DIA, but never as a full-on employee.
Gotcha. And he's diversely knowledgeable about a whole series of issues involving U.S. foreign policy, and he's from Berkeley originally.
Born in Berkeley, from Oakland. I'm always going to rep Oakland because there was more Oakland.
Are you a Yankees fan?
And he is apparently not, maybe the grandson. Are you related to the Ardress?
Yes, and he's also the current president of Yale is the endowed chair in my name, but it's not me.
Oh yeah, you told us.
So Peter Salovey is the Chris Ardress professor. Chris Ardress was my grandfather's first cousin, so their fathers were brothers.
All right, so we got some. So what are you doing in London?
Okay, so I moved to London in 2015, leaving DID and the and State Department to do a PhD in international law. and my subject is what I call liminal states in international law. So places like Taiwan or Northern Cyprus, who have all the trappings legally of a state, and it's sort of playing with this idea of de facto versus de jure, and sort of saying that there's legal recognition of states that's separate from political recognition, and that places that don't have political recognition, like to be say at the UN, are still dealt with on a legal basis, and have interactions with other states as if they were fully, endowed members of the international legal community.
It's almost like they're completely created by norms or something. No, I'm joking. I don't actually know. Know. I just had to.
And so, how far along in the PhD are you?
I should be finished, submitted, and defending, but
don't ask that question.
COVID, don't sound like my parents, please.
I know.
I see.
So then I also what I also do in London is I consult mostly with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the EBRD, which I first encountered, and I thought, okay, the European Bank, you have to be your country has to be a member of the bank for you to be able to work there. And I thought, okay, well, the U.S. couldn't possibly be a member of the EBRD, and then I, of course, found out that they were like the major founder and major donor and major shareholder, because it was founded on the idea that, as Tomas and other people could tell you, that we wanted to transform the former Soviet states' economies into free market economies, and they found out that their model worked outside of Eastern Europe. So now they operate from Morocco to Mongolia. So I work mostly in the Middle East, which was the newest region. So Syria, Lebanon. There's not a membership yet of Iraq, but they're planning to be a donor.
And how much longer do you expect to be in the UK? Which is not a backhanded way of asking you again about when you're finishing your PhD.
Yeah, well, so the EBRD has its own visa, so I could be on theirs. I am currently in the process of acquiring Greek citizenship.
Yeah.
And this would also help me with the UK, even though, of course, the UK just officially left the EU 4 days ago, and so anything that I order I used to order like a lot of ski stuff, and now if I order anything from the EU, it'll be subject to import duties and that kind of stuff. So it makes UK goods a lot more attractive. But yeah, so I'm going to be a Greek citizen as of the spring, and then that would retroactively give me the ability to apply for essentially residency in the UK, even though we've already left the EU. I will have spent 5 years here, so I'll be eligible for settled status, as they call it. So that helps me get a job outside of the bank, because the bank operates on like a UN special status. So I don't need to work. I don't need to be. If I was to be hired by Google or something here in the UK, they'd have to spend a lot of money on a visa for me, and then explain why to the UK why they'd have to hire me over any qualified UK person. So it's advantageous to have the EU and then the settled status.
And how did you've been coming on in lieu of fun for a while now, but I don't think you were here from the beginning. How did you discover it?
So the long-winded way of saying is I had a lot more interaction with Brookings through the Savant Center and your spouse. And then I discovered you when I was still in DC. And so I've always been following you, and then discovered Kate. And then I, through the show, found out that Kate and I pretty much have a similar network of friends.
We have our own Venn diagram, Ben.
Yeah, I know.
We can mark it to Venn.
I don't think that Kate knows any more of my brother or my ex-girlfriend, so
sorry.
I don't think I can anything more of that. But clearly, with like Jazz and Algamas like that, there are going to be people that you're going to bring on that I know. So just great people.
Excellent. Who should we hear from next?
Let me see. I'm thinking it's going to be Auntie.
I have a remarkable piece of information to deliver about Auntie, which I just learned.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's I always enjoy good questions.
I meant to tell you.
I've been accused of making my questions like final exam questions, and that's just
they're really good.
Sorry.
Really quickly, I gave a talk at LSE. It was one of my last international trips before the pandemic. But was supposed to go back, and I'm still supposed to go back.
Oh yeah.
This fall. If you're still there,
I haven't mentioned my unity, so I'm actually at SOAS, which is we always say SOAS as opposed to the full name, which sounds anachronistic, which is the School of Oriental and African Studies. Oriental meaning the
Eastern,
and it used to be the school where they trained the British spies and the Foreign Service, and then they decided, well, let's make it into a full-on member of the University of London. So we are like LSE or UCL or King's College or Imperial. All the schools you've heard of in London are all members of University of London. Except, I guess Imperial did leave, but yeah, everyone else, LSE is a University of London constituent. It's kind of like the University of California, in a sense.
Awesome, that's so cool. Well, great. Well, we'll get together in London one of these days.
Hi, Auntie. Yeah, cheers.
So I have I'm going to keep Auntie muted because otherwise I'll echo when I talk. Or maybe not. No, it's okay. All right, so here is what I just learned about Auntie, who sent me a package the other day.
Okay, then I have a follow-up, but I want to hear.
And the package arrived almost entirely mutilated. The box was shredded. I mean, it was amazing that if there were more than
is
two.
This the other package that got lost that you were
contents?
describing?
One of them. The U.S. Postal Service. Thank you, Louis DeJoy, has lost so many packages of mine, but it didn't lose Auntie's package. And to be fair to the U.S. Postal Service, I don't really know if it was the Finnish Postal Service or the U.S. Postal Service, but it literally arrived. The box was shredded, and there were two books in the package. One was the book that Susan Hennessy and I wrote, which Auntie had sent so I could sign it and send it back to him, which I'm going to do. And the other was a book that Auntie had written, which is about the medals and honors of the state of Lichtenstein, the principality, I should say. And so my first question, Auntie, is how did you, a Finn, come to be an authority on the medals and honors of the principality or it's Luxembourg is a grand duchy. It's a principality, right? Of Liechtenstein. Yeah. And you have written a book. I wish I had the book here, but it's in the other room. How did you come to be this?
Well, so orders and decorations of medals and everything of that sort have been my general area of special interest for like over a decade now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that like maybe 1% of the population even gives a damn or knows anything about that stuff. But to me, it's sort of this funny little tiny aspect of history that's always kind of piqued my interest. And with Liechtenstein, I suppose it's the same with almost every other tiny European state, is that in the first place, it's the mere fact of their survival that's really interesting to me. But awards and medals, they're sort of this way of culminating the history and the heritage and the symbology of the state, and it's a visible means of kind of it's a miniature piece of history, like with really old orders like the Order of the Garter, for instance. It's like it's a time capsule, and they always kind of represent not only a place in time and in history, but also a person who's done something somewhere somehow. So I mean that's I think, the basic thing of it.
And so how did you end up, like, but why Lichtenstein? I can see, like, I mean, that's a tiny corner of a tiny corner, right?
Yeah.
Like there's the people who are interested in old order honors and medals, and then there are hey, Venmo, I'm going to do a Venmo diagram here. You know, there's the universe of people who are interested in orders memos that's like this big, and then there's the group of people who are interested in Liechtenstein, and that's like this big. And you know, the overlap there is like maybe you.
Yeah. So, well, I think the basic interest always comes from history. I mean, everything is always based on the history of the nation. I've written on the orders and medals and decorations of Romania, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, and so there's. I need to be really interested in the history in the first place, and you know, when I hit upon a topic, whatever the topic, it's always kind of this thing for me that I have to dig deeper. Like, I'm endlessly curious about stuff. So I started reading on Liechtenstein's history. I think it must be like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And when I learned more of the history, I got more interested. And then I started learning about, you know, the medals and the awards. And after a while, I wrote an article. And from that article, it just sort of grew. And then I got the necessary contacts in Liechtenstein to do research there, and it's sort of just it's a process for me. I get interested, I write an article, and then eventually maybe a book.
So when did you? What do you do professionally? You just wrote an article for Lawfare that is on a subject that is not old order medals from Liechtenstein. You're a kind of diverse guy. What do you like? What's your day job?
So I'm an engineer for the city of Vaasa in the western coast of Finland, quite close to Sweden, but not quite there, Kate.
I'm going to give you a tour in a second. That's what I was going to. So I want to let you finish. But I'm in what's called in my house the Swedish Room. And that's where I built my office. And everything in the room is decorated with things from Sweden or Swedish paraphernalia. And I just kind of wanted to take a moment and troll you, like, completely. So.
Oh, Lord.
And so how did you discover In Lieu of Fun?
Well, I've been an avid devourer of Lawfare for, it must have been like almost 10 years now. It's been
like
years and years.
The whole of the history of it.
Yeah, basically. But I think in Lieu of Fun, I was browsing through YouTube for some sort of. I was bored, I guess, and I sort of looked for anything related to US politics and like what's going on, and for some reason I think I used your name as the search key, and then In Lieu of Fun popped up, and I just, you know, I watched a bit of one episode, and then I noticed, okay, these are coming up daily. So so I think it was the first episode I actively watched was, I think, was it in October or September? So I'm relatively new.
You're relatively new. Yeah.
I have a question before a Swedish tour. I'm not actually going to give you a tour of this room.
You should.
Although, I mean,
we're going to bring you up here so that.
Let's see if I can get enough light. This is a. Can you see it?
Yeah.
An entire map.
Sveria.
Then, like, over here is another tapestry. I stare at that all day. Hold on. The rest of it, I can't really.
The national costume, right?
Yeah, and then I just.
And the red horse.
Let's Oh, the red horse. Hold on, we'll get the blue horse. There's all of these little. So this was like, here's the blue horse. And then this was actually my great grandmother's doll that she brought over from Sweden.
Nice.
So I don't know. And then I don't know. There's just like a lot of stuff. I wasn't joking. There's like, I could, hold on. There we go. This is going to be really normal people, but whatever. It's like the whole room is just filled with really cute.
Why are you
tchotchkes.
like a Swedish nationalist in this part of your house?
This is my dark secret, Ben.
Is it just like to antagonize Auntie?
Yes. This has all happened in the past few months. I've collected all of this stuff. Also, I want to remind everyone, I don't live, this is not my house. This is my parents' house. And this in particular is
At
a
this
room
point,
that my mom
it's like, at this point, it's kind of an adverse possession sort of situation.
Yeah. That's spoken like someone who doesn't actually know how to define adverse possession.
I'm not exactly a property rights person.
There's just like all of these cross stitch that are in Swedish. I don't know. There's just like a whole bunch of, it's the entire house, the entire room. And we went there for the first time and it was wonderful. I told you a bunch of stories.
How does that make you feel, Auntie, that not only is Kate like surrounding herself with Swedish artifacts, but she's taunting you with them?
Well, Ben, I think I'm just gonna watch the 1995 Ice Hockey Championship final again on repeat. I'm just, gonna say that's over with.
Who are we hearing from next, Auntie?
Yeah. Also, what's the black thing? Is that a TV?
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a day screen, so that the light doesn't come up from the background.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, like for seasonal affective disorder, or like just it being wintry?
No, it's just the balcony door is there and there's a window, so I don't want the light to come in and screw up my big screen here.
Oh, it's a screen. Oh, okay, got it. It looks like a TV all this time, and I've been like, why does he have a giant monitor behind him? It seems like a terrible choice.
Yeah, that would be a terrible choice. Yeah.
I know.
Even for a Swede.
All right, who are we hearing from next?
Well, I think #JB would be the perfect contingent.
All right. JB, who has apparently a request from Robin to play the guitar. Thank you for joining us, Auntie.
Yep.
We should put together. My first trip out of quarantine and post-pandemic to Europe should be like, we do like a best of in lieu of fun and just like hopscotch across.
I have totally decided what I'm doing the moment I get vaccinated, which is doing a giant loop around the continental United States on Amtrak, visiting friends and talking to strangers. That is I'm totally doing this, and I'm going to do in lieu of fun from...
I love that.
This guy, it'll be like really unstable from moving Amtrak coaches. It's going to be amazing. Johnbordeaux, thanks for joining us. Are you going to play the guitar?
If the sound works. I'm not convinced it will. I'm using my AirPods. This is untested. So if you can't hear it, let me know.
We hear well.
Sounds great.
Okay. Real quick, I promise. Let me know how old I am. Christopher Robin and I walked along under branches lit up by the moon, posing our questions to Al and Eeyore. Our days disappeared all too soon. I don't wander much further today than I should. I got found a way back to 3 Acre Wood. So help me if you can. I've got to get back to the house if I'm gonna buy one. You'd be surprised there's so much to be done. Count all the bees in the hive. Chase all the clouds from the skies. Back to the days of Christopher Robin and Boo. That's enough of that there.
Very cool. That's, I think, is that our first live music in the history of the show?
No, because Maggie sang.
Oh, of course. That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Maggie.
But that was
an actual musician was on your show, please.
Yeah.
That was fabulous. Thank you, John.
That was amazing. Oh, I love that song too. It's such a good song.
It is. I played in bars in the 70s and 80s and sort of made a living, but yeah.
So this is unfair because I actually know the answers to these questions because we kind of know each other. But pretend I don't. Tell us about yourself. Who are you, and like, where are you joining us from, first of all? And
he knows the answer. He's going to leave. I guess that's. Yeah, so I'm in Fairfax County, Northern Virginia, about 25 miles south of DC proper, so 25 miles south of Bend. I'm nearing the end of an accidental career that started off as an Air Force intelligence analyst. Then I went to a think tank for a while as a programmer analyst, bopped around the knowledge management space, consulting in the Beltway. So I was a Beltway bandit, Parkway patriot, whatever you want to call them, as contractors. IBM for 5 years. Now I'm back at that think tank to kind of coast through the end of my career. In between, I've done interesting things that are more interesting than that. Ben's question is a DC thing. What do you do?
The real version, the better thing than what do you do is the question that Anthony Blanche asks Charles Ryder in Brideshead Revisited: where do you lurk?
Wow, I like that one. I guess that's good. Here is the answer to that question right now. The most DC thing I ever heard was somebody overheard someone in a bar in a conversation saying, well, as I was saying this morning on C-SPAN, and then proceeded to quote themselves as what they said that morning on C-SPAN. Yeah. And you know these people.
Yes. I'm surrounded by them.
Slightly more interesting things about me is while I was in the Air Force, I was also a lay preacher for the Southern Baptist Convention. I'm over that. I officiate weddings. I met my last wife 31 years ago when she was in a bar on a date with someone else. That worked out well. And a riddle. And then a riddle for Kate. I am the oldest of my siblings. I am the youngest of my siblings. I'm an only child. What am I? Dead air, they call this in the business.
I was going to say, are you born on like February 28th? Or a leap year date, baby?
Not playing with dates, nope.
It's nice.
Youngest,
what's the answer?
And only child.
I'm
a bastard. Love child.
Excellent.
Found out when I was 30 years old.
Solid, like golem level riddle right there. That was just like.
You're welcome. Yeah,
all right, who are we hearing from next, John?
All right, the next one will be Ruth Greenblatt.
Ruth Greenblatt, it is.
Excellent. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the song. That was amazing.
Where is Ruth? Oh, there she is.
Hi.
Hello. And where are you joining us from?
Indio, California.
Cool.
Wow. Where is Indio, California?
It's near Palm Springs. I live very close to where the Coachella Festival is held.
Excellent. And what's your shtick? I have to not ask people what they do because then people will scold me that's a very Washington question.
Well, we know one thing about Ruth already. She is a quilter.
That's true.
I am a retired professor of infectious diseases, clinical biostatistician, biostatistics and clinical pharmacy from UCSF. And damp wood termites ate half my 100-year-old San Francisco house. So I fixed it and decided to move down here. Yes, and I sew and things like that. But I am an ID person. So kind of weird to be retired right now, given everything going on.
Yeah, have you been tempted to go back into doing stuff?
Oh, I have, that they're not that organized. I mean, I have submitted my name multiple times to try to help out in various ways. And the responses have been varied. I think I annoyed the local hospital in March when I said, early in March, I said, you guys really should screen people for fever and mask anyone and keep those patients separate here, And I think they were offended that I was making these comments. So, but yeah, so I have a big Dropbox I maintain with some of my buddies that has a lot of COVID kind of papers and such in it. So, and I'm actually still tiny bit working at UCSF. I was a clinician and a researcher, and I did clinical research for 30 odd years there.
In what areas?
In HIV. I'm an expert in HIV in women and just HIV in general. I spent some time in East Africa studying HIV transmission right when the organism first was found. So I graduated from med school in 81, the year AIDS was discovered. So I spent years doing, NIH funded research. I was basically an NIH employee in San Francisco for 30 years.
And how did you come upon In Lieu of Fun?
Well, I had been I looked at lawfare for many years and rational security since like 2017. So I've been following that along, but I did not realize, I didn't understand In Lieu of Fun existed this way until, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, 6 months ago, something like that. And then I started joining frequently, not all the time, but frequently.
Yeah, you're around quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right. Who do you want to hear from?
Well, let's see. It'd be nice to find somebody who hasn't contributed a lot. I don't know.
Let's see.
There's Stephen Freeman or Oblio, who looks like a very attractive German Shepherd, but
well, Oblio. So let's
against German Shepherds.
Let's hear from Oblio because Oblio has never actually agreed to come on screen before and agrees to reveal his or her identity. So I think we're not gonna miss that opportunity.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. While we are waiting for Oblio, who has accepted... Oh, there's Oblio. Hello, Oblio.
Hello.
So who is your real identity? The big reveal.
The big reveal. So my name is Marlene Kogan. And the only reason that I have my alternate ID on here is because I joined through Twitter. And this is my Twitter ID.
I see. Well, it's great to meet you. Where are you joining from?
Wilmington, Delaware.
Wow,
the home of Joe Biden.
Big Delaware contingent today.
Yeah, it's not it's such a, it's really a very small town, and all of a sudden it's like the center of the world. All these people are gathered, not like 5 miles from my house. It's kind of weird.
It'll go away in a couple weeks. It's going to be like a giant caravan 100 miles south. So
I weirdly always imagine Delaware being like a land of just where like mascots for giant corporations just like walk around all day like people, but that's probably probably inaccurate. Maybe that's different now that Biden is.
Sorry?
For people who live here, it's the home of credit card banking. For the people who live here, in a lot of ways, it's the home of credit card banking. Aside from the Chancery Court.
Yeah.
So,
what else can I say?
How did you come upon In Lieu of Fun?
So I followed Lawfare, and I also listened to Rational Security, and so I listened to In Lieu of Fun occasionally, but I did a lot on Twitter. And then I realized I was missing out by not using Crowdcast, so I switched over to Crowdcast, and I'm usually on every day because I finish work at 5, so I just kind of switch over my computer I close up my home office and I move over to my iPad.
Let that be a lesson to you all who are watching us on Twitter. Come over to the dark side, to Crowdcast. Yeah. We have tech glitches. We've got, it's just so much better. So I work in IT, and every time you have these glitches, it just cracks me up. Yeah, it cracks us up too. It's So who do you want to hear from? I think you get the last choice, and then I have to answer Tomas's question.
Oh, let me look at the list. Unless you have suggestions. I don't know. Oh, how about Alice Lee?
We can do Alice Lee. We're apparently not allowed to ask her to tell us about herself. We will bring on Alice Lee. Thank you, Oblio, for joining us.
That was awesome. I hadn't met her yet.
Awesome.
That was fun. Hi,
hello, Alice Lee. So tell us about yourself.
Are you drinking a delicious beer?
I am drinking Bully Boy Amaro. Which is like a cocktail in a can.
It's an Amaro. Is it an Amaro spritz in a can?
Yes. Yeah, from a Boston distillery.
Is it too sweet?
Yes.
But Amaro is always too sweet.
Yeah.
I know,
sometimes it's too bitter, which is my preference.
I was just gonna say it's my preference too. I find Amaro to be quite bitter, and I love it. But I can't handle the cocktails in a can because they're always like gin in a tin is always like, how are you making this gin and tonic so damn sweet? Ugh.
Yeah,
So now that we've disparaged your drink,
sorry.
All right, let's see what we know about Alice Lee. Alice Lee is a computer scientist in Somerville, Massachusetts. She lives
a few blocks from where my friend used to live.
She works at Lincoln Labs. She grows tomatoes. Badly. Well, we don't have independent verification.
We'll start from the beginning together this spring, Alice.
All right. So the question is, what else do we need to know about Alice Lee?
Alice, I know. We both did. You made us amazing cookies, and they were so great. And you packaged them so cutely. And John ate most of them. And I didn't get any.
I would like to point out that Alice's orange,
so pretty.
Orange, dried orange disc looks perfectly like a baby cannon wheel, and therefore is illuminated there, which I'm sure was what she was planning when she dried it out.
I made mine into a little ornament. So just to fill everyone in, because Ben, to decorate the packages of cookies that she made, Alice made this beautiful dried orange ring, and then she there was this sprig of like kind of evergreen, and then there was a sprig of, and then there was a stick of cinnamon, and then it was all tied together beautifully with like decorative string, and it was just gorgeous. It was just like on brown paper wrapping, and it was just like so precious. And then I saved ours and I turned it into an ornament for our tree. But thank you. It was like, we don't have many ornaments because we're just, you know, that's how it is at this stage in your life.
Non-Swedish ornament.
My non-Swedish ornaments. Yes, my entire Swedish tree.
So how did you discover In Lieu of Fun? You started showing up one day and saying interesting things in the chat and refusing to be brought on screen to ask them, and had to be sort of coaxed onto screen. Where did you come? How did you end up here?
So I was kind of long been interested in like national security and cybersecurity, kind of that intersection. So I've been reading lawfare since kind of becoming interested in that in college. And then I think I came across this when you guys were still in Zoom mode, and it didn't really work for me. And then once you switched to Crowdcast, it felt like it was more appealing, the chat and stuff like that.
See, the Crowdcast move was so good then.
To everybody
who was a time before Crowdcast.
Yeah, to everybody, but people brag on Crowdcast a lot, but I love Crowdcast. I don't mind the tech failures because it's much more immediate than Zoom, and it doesn't feel like a meeting. You know, and I think when people are in Zoom all day for their day jobs, the last thing they want at 5 o'clock is another Zoom meeting. It's also, this is more brightly colored. It just feels different.
I love being able to run my question by both the crowd with the voting system and then the host, because you actually have to pick the question instead of just feeling like someone's rolling the dice on me.
I love the chat. It was funny because when we were doing this early on, John would watch and he'd be like, and we had turned off the chat because of Zoom then. And like, that's what everyone was doing that was starting to live stream or do anything on Zoom. You had to turn off the chat. And John was like, I really feel like you would have a great community if you had a chat going. And I was like, we have so many tech issues, leave me alone. Like, I don't want to deal with it. But then you naturally found Crowdcast, Ben, and it was perfect. So
well, I didn't find it. To be fair, Ian Enright, who runs Goat Rodeo, found it for purposes of our incipient idea for Lawfare Live, and we decided to road test it using In Lieu of Fun. So that is how we came to be on Crowdcast. All right, we have got to wrap up, but I did promise that I would address briefly Thomas's question about, I believe, the what the fuck is up with the president's latest latest call to Georgia.
I didn't get to say bye. Bye. Sorry.
Bye, Alice.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So, look, the answer to this question, I did a brief scan. I cannot identify a federal statute that it clearly violates. There is at least an implied threat in it. There's also a request to commit what would probably be a felony under Georgia law, although I don't know Georgia law very well. So there's definitely scraping up against the edge of the criminal law here. I think, frankly, the likelihood of it being a prosecutable offense is pretty remote. That said, it is, and I do note that in the original Washington Post story, they asked Ned Foley, who's a very serious election law guy at Ohio State, and he didn't seem to be able to identify a criminal law issue there, other than, like, again, sort of subordination of a felony of some sort. But I guess to me, the real issue here is that this is one of the most profoundly anti-democratic things you can do as a president, which is, try to induce a state official to rig the election for you. I do think Raffensperger deserves some credit for and his lawyer, whom I'm for recording it and for releasing it to the public on a prompt basis, not waiting for so my assumption is that the major ramifications of this are reinforcing in everybody's minds the perception that we all had anyway, which is that this is an anti-democratic actor resisting the constraints of a democratic system. And I'm not sure it has much implication beyond that. It's kind of a very vivid example of what we already knew. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on it, Kate?
No, I've been watching. I mean, that was terrible, but I've been watching everyone with the Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and like everything else kind of craziness. And like kind of like my feed only just saw the Trump stuff right at the end, and like basically I was just on Twitter today, and it was saying, it was just kind of say it was still everyone was obsessed with Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz. But I mean, I guess sorry, I just got a text from Windsor Man, and he wants to ask you if it's feasible in any way.
If what's feasible?
If I am assuming like anything that like if there's any way for like if any way for the president to get impeached or anything else before the end of his term, because I should have prefaced that with Windsor had a clever, as he is known for, a very succinct and clever and like few worded tweet that was simply impeach him again. And he texted me, is it feasible? So sorry, yeah, I should have started there.
So the answer to that question is yes. There is actually nothing that prevents the impeachment of even former officials. And there is a practical significance to when you impeach a former official, which is that, it can result in, at least theoretically, in disqualification from further holding of office of public trust under the Constitution. And, the language, I don't have the Constitution in front of me, but the language of the impeachment clause is punishment in cases of impeachment shall not exceed or go beyond removal from office and disqualification from holding of further office of trust under the Constitution. And so you could imagine a situation in which Congress said, okay, there's no point in removing him because that'll take longer than the 17 days it's going to take for him to remove himself or for the system to remove him. But there is value in a subsequent post-transition trial to disqualify him from which would have the effect of preventing him from running again. The problem with that idea is that just as there weren't the votes to remove him the first time in the Senate, there are not the votes to disqualify him now. And so I do think there's other than the House making the statement by doing it, there's the what do you get for it? And I don't think there's an answer to that question that will animate anybody in the middle of COVID, in the middle of trying to create a new administration, to want to actually do that. But as a practical matter, I don't think there's nothing that stands in the way of what Windsor is suggesting, except perhaps the politics of it.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, the only thing that you could possibly think is that if something changes in the next couple of months and like there's politically, like that, you're right. I was just kind of thinking like people, like something happens and Trump really loses face and brand, and like people and the Republicans want to signal that they're done with him in some way, like, and now they feel like they can because he's not in the executive anymore, and so like there's and they do something like that. But I mean, that would, as you said, there'd be all political questions.
But I think the more, and I have to spend a little bit more time with the criminal questions associated with this. I do not know of a federal statute that prohibits federal officials from interfering with state electoral officials. That's a weird. I mean, usually
that sounds like something Vladek or Nate personally would know, but
yeah,
or Rick Pildes.
I think the answer is the statute doesn't exist. Yeah. There are statutes that go the other way, you know, preventing state officials from getting in the way of federal officials. But
do you think it specifies? It probably does specify state to federal and not just like actor to actor. It's probably directional.
Yeah, because the federal government has an interest in preserving its own functions.
Well, maybe that's what we should discuss tomorrow. What do you think, Ben? We don't have a guest.
We could ask Vladek to come on and have a chat about it. So Todd Keck just put in the chat 52 USC 2511, which reads, a person, including an election official, who in any election for federal office knowingly and willfully deprives, defrauds, or attempts to deprive or defraud the residents of a state of a fair and impartially conducted election process by B, the procurement, casting, or tabulation of ballots that are known by the person to be materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent under the laws of the state in which the election is held, shall be fined or imprisoned not more than 5 years. So
that's in the criminal code.
That is actually closer to an on-point statute than anything else I have seen. And I would be interested. Thank you, Todd, for pointing that out. I think that would be that's the closest I've seen. It would you'd want to know a little bit about the enforcement history, and of course also you get into you get into the question of whether a person there does or does not include the president under various interpretive. Well, under the there's an implied plain statement rule in applying certain criminal statutes to the president, or at least some people think there is. So there's a million questions you would want to sift through pretty carefully. But look, at the end of the day, I don't think this is going to be resolved as a criminal matter. If you wanted to look at the 10 things where the president is most criminally vulnerable, I'm not sure this is on that list of 10.
Okay. Well, I love the idea of having Steve on to discuss it anyways, and just kind of he's been super super busy on Twitter these days, just kind of talking with kind of great hits on everything that's kind of been happening with all the way since the election results came in. So it might be good to have him on Monday.
I'm texting you now. Great. I'm texting him now.
Just to see if he'll do a quick hit for us too, to give us some idea what to expect in the big week that we talked about yesterday. You know?
Yeah, we could talk about the whole kind of week to come situation.
Yeah.
All right. We will see if Steve can do tomorrow, and in any event, we'll be back 22 hours and 46 minutes from now. And until then, Kate?
We don't have fun anymore, but in lieu of fun, every once in a while, I do remember how to do the sign-off.
There we go. See you tomorrow.
Bye.